I think what is interesting is the change from sort of a diffuse style of the G8, where they talk about everything, they say they're going to do things on everything. What we see, I think, is a much more focused, niche approach. And of course, this comes out on maternal health, I think, in particular. We see a focused approach by the Harper government right from January, where Prime Minister Harper is at Davos. We see an attempt, I think, to sort of build a coalition of the willing in some ways, much beyond the G8. We see the sort of classic countries that have bought into that initiative. The UK, I think, is a good example, but well beyond. So we have the Swiss, the Norwegians, the Spanish, even New Zealand. And of course, as I said yesterday, we also see sort of the public-private partnership, and again, the Gates Foundation is a good example. How this will play out in the future, of course, is a different question. I mean, what it means is that the G8 is going to look for other types of initiatives. One thing that I was a little surprised by was the lack of sort of publicity on the transnational crime issue. We saw sort of Colombia, Haiti, Jamaica coming up to the summit. Certainly these are countries that are very on the front line of transnational crime, but at the same time we really didn't see much in terms of deliverables. I think in the future, there's probably, if we're going to have that sort of outreach, there's probably is going to have to be much more sort of tied in with that sort of instrumental component rather than just symbolic. And of course, I think this is one of the difficulties of the G8, where it looks like you're sort of inviting different countries for different reasons, sort of beyond the G8 mandate. And of course, again, we see the G8 really, I think, in an elaborate dance now with the G20, where it has abdicated the major macroeconomic concerns, where it does, put those countries into a dual component of symmetry. And that's what makes it exciting, because I think in the future we're going to see, I think, those two summits sort of, again, jockeying for position, sometimes cooperating, sometimes in rival components. So it's going to be interesting to look not only in the last day of as we move into the G20, but also, of course, next year and beyond.
Do you have any specific expectations for France as a G8 host, or any kind of predictions? Or
one thing on there, I mean, listening again to President Sarkozy, we're seeing that the G8 has life to it. We did see, of course, President Sarkozy in the last few years talking about an implosion of the G8, that the G8 had lost its relevance, talking about a reform sort of internally within the G8 into a G13 or a G14. That seems to have lost momentum. And indeed, we see President Sarkozy now, in some ways, wanting to have the best of two worlds, and maybe even a division of the G8 and the G20. It looks like the G8 next year will be in Nice, in south of France. It looks like he will use that to sort of focus on sort of the like-minded components, the concerns sort of outside of the economic core mandate that he's interested in. But at the same time, there may be another G20, maybe in the same sort of sequence as the Korean G20 in Korea, that will allow him to come back with some of his more ambitious approaches to the international political economy, particularly, of course, of further reform of international financial institutions.